All right. Did y'all miss me? I missed you guys. I was sad I didn't get to do my live Monday night this week. Was traveling, went to DC, which was actually pretty cool. I got to be there during Crypto Week, work with the Digital Chamber to advocate for what we saw today, which was the actual ability to start voting on these bills. Obviously, the Dems and the Freedom Caucus blocked that on Tuesday. And a lot of people were a little bit upset. The Dems tried to block crypto once again, but the Republicans won out on this one, so they will vote on the stablecoin bill, which is the Genius bill. And then you've got the Clarity Act. And then there's another one that's basically a rider that doesn't allow for CBDCs. So big news that finally got across the line this morning there on Capitol Hill, which is pretty good. Kind of have to have that for anything that I've been talking about to play out. That is a requirement. And they've changed TikTok. So I don't know where anything is on here. Maybe I have to like click this button. I don't know. It says I'm live, but I don't see any comments anywhere. So I'll get that figured out. But we will definitely run down the super chats over here on YouTube and on X. Appreciate you guys hanging out and joining me on a Wednesday night. We normally do these Monday and Wednesday, but again, I was traveling to DC on Monday, and my laptop decided that it was not going to accommodate a live. So that's why we ended up where we ended up. Well, I see comments down here at the bottom. Maybe I can figure out how to do this on the TikTok. Every once in a while just decides that they're going to change stuff. So anyway, on that side, we did get that passed, and I do think that you're going to see the stablecoin bill passed. The Clarity Act, I don't know about that. Based on the sentiment that I got from most of the Congress people there in DC that we spoke with, there's still a lot of conjecture around what they want to see from that. They also, Democrats feel kind of like they were forced into this one with the stablecoin bill, and there's some opposition on their side. They want to involve, a bunch of stuff in the Clarity Act. I think that's going to get punted. I really do think that piece of it's probably going to get punted into the fall or Q4 of this year, and then maybe even to 2026. But the stablecoin bill, the Genius Act, I do think we are going to see pass here this week. I think Trump is going to sign it into law on Friday. And if we get that, pretty confident that we're going to have potentially, and I don't know this to be true or not. There's some hearsay that there's going to be a press conference held about Twitter, or not Twitter, Tether on Friday from the DOJ, the CFTC, and the SEC and their investigations into Tether. Is that true? Yet to be seen. The source that I saw it on said it was leaked, that's going to be the case. But that makes a lot of sense. If we did see the passing of the stablecoin bill, that would bring a lot of scrutiny to Tether, and you would want auditable reserves. They are a dollar-denominated stablecoin, and if you're the big boys and you want to introduce stablecoins, you don't necessarily want to fight the incumbent. Tether does have a pretty significant market share when it comes to stablecoins. A lot of international payments flowing through that to be able to settle, not quite real time, but pretty close globally with a dollar-denominated stablecoin. And if there are, ties of Tether to, I don't know if they'll tie it to Epstein, speculating, putting my tinfoil hat on here for you guys. But if there is something that comes out about it like that, I think that could shed a very negative light on it, and a lot of people may move away from it very quickly. That would definitely impact Bitcoin and its liquidity. And with that, I think you could see a pretty significant downturn in the markets as a whole. I don't know what all the exchanges still have exposure here to Tether in the US. We've seen Crypto.com already delist them. Many exchanges in the EU have already delisted them because of MiCA, or MiCA, however you want to say it, the regulations there. When we talk to MasterCard and other large payment providers, they've de-risked from Tether a long time ago. So anyway, it's part of the domino theory. It's part of what I put out. So I do think that it is relevant to the conversation. I do think that there is going to be some type of problem with Tether in the near future if the stablecoin bill does get passed this week, like I do anticipate after being on Capitol Hill and having the conversations I had. So anyway, not a whole lot. You know, a lot of people are excited about Crypto Week, especially Republicans there on Capitol Hill. Digital Chamber, you know, they've been an advocate for crypto regulation for a long time, and excited to be part of that group. We drafted a lot of letters, and oh, thank you. Thank you, darling.
Did you get to the questions?
Nope, I will get to them as soon as I'm done talking. My beginning ramblings here.
Sorry, I didn't want you to forget.
Nope, I got it. So yeah, a lot of people excited about this week with it being Crypto Week and the legislation that's going to get passed. I do think that you're going to have a lot of liquidity move in to digital assets, but you may have some sucked out with Tether to begin with. I think there's going to be an ebb and flow. Get ready for some volatility if that's the case. I know a lot of people are excited about the market being green. I am too. A little jingle in your pocket that you didn't have a few days ago. It's nice to see your portfolio up, especially if you've been here through the bear market and dollar cost average over that period. Like, a lot of days are rough, you know, especially if you bought higher. I know a lot of people are new to the market after we saw the run up here in November, December. And so if you're new here and you have dollar cost average and you are up on your portfolio, congratulations. But just be aware you're probably in for some volatility in the near future as this legislation passes. So excited for that. Still nothing on the Ripple case. You know, the SEC hasn't come out and said that they are removing their appeal. Everything still seems to be progressing. You did have Brad go speak in front of Congress. I believe it was Monday this week, or maybe it was last week. Anyway, it's good to see, you know, the right people advocating for the industry and in front of Congress, talking about, you know, what this industry really is and how it's affected their business, the previous administration and the enforcement actions by the SEC, and to see Paul, you know, come in and remove those. We also got a removal of the investigation by the SEC into Polymarket. I don't know if you guys saw that today or not, but that's a big deal. Very interesting to be able to bet on like what is actually happening. In the past, if you thought, you know, there was going to be something happen in the Middle East, you would hedge and buy, you know, puts on oil, or position yourself where you would benefit from the volatility in oil kind of as a byproduct of conflict in the Middle East. But with Polymarket, you can bet on exactly what you think is going to happen. So with that, I mean, you could probably, I know you can bet on if the stablecoin bill is going to pass or if the Clarity Act is going to pass, and it gives you a percent of certainty out there in the market and what it looks like, and you can make some money on that. So interesting to see, you know, the gambling side of things and that dynamic kind of unfold here. But we'll get into it. We'll go ahead and run it down in the chat tonight. If you guys have any questions that are burning, I do have a few super chats I missed last week, which I apologize if I ever do that. If you pay money, follow up with us and I will get to your super chats. I've got two right here that I need to start with before we run the others down. So Brian Angelico is who sent both of these. And again, I apologize to Brian for missing him. He said, I'm a large holder and need to understand how XRP can hit $1,000 plus. Just simply understanding market capitalization at $1,000, it's 59 trillion. It's actually more than that because there's 100 billion XRP. There's not quite 100 billion now because they've burnt some of them, but it is close to $100 trillion if the market cap, if XRP were $1,000 a piece. So this is a question that I get frequently, and people have a hard time understanding market cap in crypto. In the stock market, there's an order book. There's people that have invested money in a corporation. There's, you know, however many outstanding shares in a corporation, and that trades at a value to the earnings or the EBITDA. There's a lot of different ways you can value a corporation, but it trades at a multiple of that. Most corporations, if they're just, you know, less than 5 million in revenue and they're in a standard industry, you're normally going to get like a sometimes less than a 1 multiple, depending on what it is, but sometimes up to a 2 or 3 on the multiple. So you take the EBITDA, or the earnings before tax, interest, depreciation, and amortization, and you would multiply that by whatever is common in the industry. If it has a tech component or some other reoccurring revenue or different components, maybe you get a higher multiple. But most of the time, it's going to be somewhere between 2 and 3. And that's just kind of depreciating cash flows over the next 5 years. And that's kind of how they come to the valuation on a corporation. When you get to the stock market, it's interesting. The higher the EBITDA goes, the more multiples you get most of the time. So, he said talk to him like he's a toddler. So I'll break it down a little bit more simply. I'll give you an example. And this is crude, but he asked for simple. So that's where I'm going to go with it. Let's say I'm going to issue Jake token. Okay. These are not shares in a corporation. This is an ICO. Okay. I'm going to go to market. I mint 1 billion Jake token. All right. And I get it listed on Binance. There's some depth in the order book. And there's some trades at around $1. Okay. What is the market cap of Jake token? Let's say there's 10 trades at $1. Well, if you did the math, it's $1 billion market cap. But there was only $10 traded into Jake token, and they all bought for $1. So the total amount of money that's moving into an asset is completely different than the market cap of what it's showing, because it's just total outstanding amount times whatever the last trade was. Okay. So when people say that you can't have an XRP market cap of 100 trillion or quadrillion dollars, they don't understand supply and demand. They don't understand available supply versus total supply. So let's say you only had 100,000 XRP available on exchanges for purchase, and people were willing to pay $1,000 or $2,000 for an XRP because they need it, and the value that they're going to get from the token inside their business is 5 or 10x that. They're going to be able to save enough money by using it to settle that they're willing to pay that premium on that token in order to purchase it. Well, if it's trading at that value because of the supply and demand dynamics that exist in the market cap is irrespective. And this is also, these are protocols. These are not businesses, right? So there's not any like traditional way to value these assets. I think that in the future, there's going to be some type of liquidity provision or another metric outside of market cap that you're going to look at to be able to value these networks. So how much liquidity is in the token or can be used in the open market versus, just easy math of how many shares or tokens there are versus the last price it's traded at. And so again, total supply and available supply are two very different things. And then in addition to that, the demand for the token on the open market with, very little supply, people would be willing to pay a pretty significant premium. Now gold kind of works like this. Gold has a spot price, and then there's, the premium that you pay over the spot price if you buy physical most of the time. I do think that could be something else that exists for XRP, but I don't know how you would add that on top of the XRP, because unless it gets traded or regulated as a commodity, then you might see that as well, where it trades at a certain price, but people are paying above spot for XRP. I think it could persist like that. So hopefully that gives you a better idea of like what market cap is, how you calculate it, and why it's not quite as relevant for digital assets as it would be the stock market. His next question said, hypothetically, the price in 6 months shoots one day to $500, and now I'm sitting on $10 million on my Trezor in XRP. What's the fastest, most secure way to liquidate during a run if you want to get funds to my bank? So this kind of is where the LLC comes in. And I know a lot of people are like, well, why do you want to set up an LLC now? I can set it up later. I know there's been some other content creators out there poo-pooing a lot of the stuff that we provide and do. Look, everybody has their opinion. I'm just here to provide, what I've got from professionals that we work with as best practices. if somebody wants to go set up their own LLC without a corporate veil and an attorney, and you want to use LegalZoom to do it because it's cheaper, more power to you. I try to provide everybody all of the information here to be able to do it yourself if you wanted to. We had Aaron on, who owns Laughlin Associates, which is our paralegal firm that does the corporate veil service for us and all of our clients. And we went over a lot of the things in that video on best practice in order to maintain your corporate veil, meeting minutes, issuing of the shares, making sure that you have segregated bank accounts, you doing written actions and consents to be able to trade money in and out of the business into your personal name or personal accounts. Same thing on exchanges. You're using hygiene. You've set up an account at the exchange in the LLC's business name, bunch of stuff, right? Cold wallet. We help you move it in there. No issues. You don't have to buy another Trezor or anything and send it to it. But having an LLC in place before price appreciation is going to do a lot for you. One of the main things is you're going to be able to set up a bank account and season that bank account in. If you're working with one of the larger institutions, let's call it Bank of America or Chase, Wells Fargo, Goldman, any of those where you have a corporate account, they're going to have some restrictions on it for the first 3 to 6 months. And if you move a large amount of money in there very quickly, probably going to flag it. But one, it's a business account, so they're going to expect larger amounts of money to move through a business account. You want to season in your bank account just like you want to season in a trust. It takes time in order for those flags to drop on things. So the longer you've had things set up, the more that you've used it, if there's been larger balances sitting in that account, it's far less likely that you're going to have issues when you liquidate a large amount of crypto and send it to that bank account. So just be thinking through those things. In addition to that, that'd probably be the best way to go about it, to make sure that you're going to have a spot to send it to where you're not going to get flagged. If you're sending a couple $1 million into your personal bank account from a crypto exchange post price appreciation, and you've never had more than $10,000 in your banking account, that bank's going to flag it. They could freeze your account. If you've already had that conversation with the bank and you've already made it clear to them that you're probably going to be a private client, you're going to be liquidating a large amount of money, from an alternative investment that you've made over the next 6 months into this account, and it is 6, 7 figures, 8 figures that you're going to be moving in here, they're going to walk you over to the private banking side and set you up an account that has the capability for that. Now, are there probably some bigger fees for that account? Yeah, but you're mitigating the risk that you're going to end up in a bad situation without your funds that you've worked all this time and saved for and invested, and now it's locked, one, at the exchange potentially, or two, at your bank account. You want to go ahead and set up OTC desk and relationships with those individuals, whether that is, at Uphold or Kraken, could be Caleb and Brown, could be Coinbase. There's a lot of places that have OTC desks that can accommodate larger trades up to $10 million. If it's more than that, you're probably going to want maybe a dark pool or a broker at that point if you're going to be looking to execute something larger than that. If you're working with us at Digital Wealth Partners, we can execute across the board. It doesn't matter as little or as much as you want. We have access for that through Anchorage and their partnerships and their brokerage. So, and it's only 20 basis points. So that's another consideration, is how much is it going to cost you to liquidate that much money? If you do $1 million through Caleb and Brown, they're going to charge you 35 grand for that trade. So go ahead and if it's in the LLC, then cool, you can write that off as an expense. But if it's in your personal name, you're going to have to document that as income. So that's all of these things add up to be able to write stuff off and mitigate taxes if it's inside the LLC, in addition to, saving you from potentially getting your stuff frozen and the anonymity. I could go on and on about that. That's why we work with everybody and set those things up to begin with. But again, it's your choice. If you want to operate in your individual name and you're okay with paying the taxes and potentially getting caught up with the bank or the The exchange, more than welcome to do it. And if you want to reach out, if you need some of those relationships, we're happy to share them. We don't charge people for those. We have good relationships with all the OTC desks. Happy to make introductions for people where it makes sense. But you do need to be making larger trades. Like, they're not just going to set you up an account on an OTC desk and let it sit idle there. They want you to trade at least $250,000 a month. So just be aware of that. Whereas Digital Wealth Partners, we don't care. Whenever you want to execute a larger trade, we will put it through. You don't have to. There's no specific volumes or anything with us. We're here when you need us. So that would be the route. I would probably hold it on a cold wallet. There was another video that I saw floating around about a guy that was like, your XRP never made it to your cold wallet, and they're going to lock you out and all this stuff. I have liquidated 6 figures through Coinbase and other exchanges regularly off my cold wallet in the last week with no issues. So I don't know what that guy's talking about. And there's a lot of people that like to fearmonger. I try not to fearmonger, just so people know that. Like, sometimes some of the stuff we put out on social media gets your attention and may create some urgency. But my intention is to empower people with the knowledge and understanding on stuff. It's never to scare you to want to work with us, just so people are aware. I've had other people comment that that's what I'm doing. That's never my intention. I always just want to educate people and make sure they're empowered and they understand consequences if they don't take action now on things. But it's never to incite fear. So just be aware of that. So anyway, yeah, let's say you want to liquidate 10 mil. You better have a seasoned in bank account in a business name. Better have your assets in a business. Probably need an OTC desk in order to be able to mitigate as much of the fees as you can. Ideally, and I'm biased here, and I'm, going to talk about the services that we have because I think they're better than anything else out there because I've curated them for that. But at Digital Wealth Partners, you're going to be able to liquidate at whatever price you need to and be able to wire it to your bank account same day, especially if you're domestic. Like, there's no issue. I did talk to a gentleman earlier today that's having some frustrations about sending assets from Australia. I did not know, there's probably some Aussies watching this, I did not know that your government has locked you down to $10,000 a month, and that's all that you can, oh, that's why my TikTok. Oh, let's do this. I'm on Instagram. That was why. Well, hold on. Let me get this set up right here. Next. Sorry. I was wondering why that looks so different. Okay. Now we're live on TikTok. I messed up. So anyway, that's what I would do. I would make sure that you had an LLC in place. I would make sure that you had a seasoned in bank account. I would make sure that you'd already had a conversation with the bank and your OTC desk that you were going to liquidate large amounts. And I would hold it on a cold wallet until you intended to liquidate it. And then I would move it over to the OTC desk with your broker that you have a conversation with, open channel. Maybe you can call them. Hopefully it's with somebody that, again, isn't going to rake you over the coals. Caleb and Brown's, I even told them they were egregious on their fees. 3.5%'s too much. Now, cool that you can call somebody. I get that. But like 1% on a $10 million trade is still a lot of money. It's $100,000. And so, I think that would be probably the most that I could justify charging. We're only 20 basis points. So on $10 million, it'd be $20,000. And that doesn't go to us. That goes to Anchorage for their services on the brokerage. So we do all trades at cost through Digital Wealth Partners. If you had assets there and that's where you were holding them and it wasn't on a cold wallet, then you're prepared, you're ready to go. You're able to exit whenever you want to. And you can, sleep knowing that your assets are safe and that when you want to liquidate, you'll be able to get those funds directly to your account. And we require that a business is already set up and you have a business bank account attached. So it just makes sure you're in position to capitalize on the moment when the time comes. So those were his 2 questions. So I'll go ahead and hop into the questions we got here, and we'll run it down tonight. We'll probably hang out a little late. I know that a lot of people miss me on Monday, which is wild to say, but we'll make sure that we get through all the super chats tonight. We got Ricky. He says, "Hey mate, question: could the U.S. give Japan a bad trade deal? Be what forces Japan to hit them back with rocketing interest rates?" Still very confident that we are going to see. We've already seen some things today about oil. We saw Iran attack. Maybe it was Israel. I don't remember who it was, but they bombed them. And then you also had oil tankers that have been blown up. There's oil just keeps being a reoccurring theme. And I'm highly convicted that we are going to see oil spike, and that is going to be the cause. And so you need a rotation of both, just so people are aware. You need U.S. interest rates coming down, and you need Bank of Japan interest rates going up. And that's what would cause a rotation out of U.S. treasuries and then chasing bond yield there in Japan. If we do see Jerome Powell actually resign or get fired or whatever is going to happen with that deal, and they do aggressively lower interest rates while Japan is being hit with, energy costs, and those are spiking, and they've got to, increase their interest rates to be able to mitigate the inflation there. That is the perfect storm for the reverse carry trade to unwind. Again, there could be outside circumstances and maybe something with the trade deal that I'm not seeing, but my crystal ball says it's oil. Silverado Man says, "Do you think the pump is fake out or breakout?" Oh, it's breakout. Silverado Man. Like, if you look at the RSI and you look at everything else, XRP is about to move substantially higher. You've already seen a breakdown and rotation out of Bitcoin and the altcoins. We're just waiting on the XRP ETF announcement. Like, that's what I'm waiting on for a skyrocketing XRP. We've got SD Corals. They say, "Hey Jake, my wife and I met you in Dallas. Awesome, man. The Digital Asset Summit, great event." JP Morgan says that 75% of reverse carry trade is already unwound. That is a lie. Agree, thoughts? How does this affect price shock appreciation? JP Morgan and others are a lot of the people that are levered up, and they don't want to concern people about how much leverage they've taken out there in Japan. We saw the unwind start in August last year. We saw 13% down in the S&P in one day. That was about 2 or 3 trillion unwinding out of the reverse carry trade. There is tens of trillions that has been borrowed from the Bank of Japan, and we haven't even seen anything yet. Like, as soon as this actually unwinds, it is going to be wild how much liquidity leaves the market in a very short period of time. And again, JP Morgan likes to talk their book. You've seen Jamie Dimon poo-poo Bitcoin while buying it OTC and stacking on their side and trading against people. They spoof silver all the time. I wouldn't listen to anything that JP Morgan is telling the public. That's highly unlikely that it's the actual truth. But yeah, this is the other piece. After it started to unwind and the Bank of Japan assured people that they wouldn't raise rates, guess what people did? They re-levered. They went back over there and borrowed more again at 1% or 1.5%. So it's all back up to what it was or greater now. And that's why when it unwinds this time and it catches people off guard, because it's going to unwind quickly when it goes. If it's oil, like, that's the other reason I think it's going to be oil, is if that spikes, they're going to have to aggressively raise rates. It's going to be an emergency meeting. The Bank of Japan has said that they're already thinking about raising rates on this next cycle. They're going to start hiking again. You've also got Jerome Powell, holding stuff steady for now. But if he resigns and we do have another Fed chair step in, or somehow Trump gets his way and we significantly reduce interest rates here in the U.S., it's going to be a bloodbath for markets. I don't think it's going to last that long. because I do think they're going to implement this new financial system to save the day, but it's going to be bloody for a short period. And there's always opportunity in that. And that's why Uncle Warren has almost $400 billion sat on the sidelines, ready to go. One, to be a liquidity provider, and two, to take advantage of the dip, the dippy dip. Chris, appreciate you, man. Thank you for the super chat. He says, hey, legend, thanks for the Carbon 2 call this week. Any thoughts about new partnerships between Ripple and the UAE, tokenization of real-world assets, and how would we participate in such opportunities in the future? Greetings from Norway. Awesome, man. Yeah. Tokenization of real-world assets is interesting. You're basically going to have to invest in the companies that are doing those things. Some of the investments that Ripple has made is like Propto or Reclosure. They're in Ireland. Very interesting company. Done a very good job of tokenizing real estate through SPVs on the XRPL. I don't know if Link2 comes out of the deal that it's in. I know that was their intention a long time ago, was to bring all of the equities there to the XRPL, and then everything's just kind of gone downhill. But I don't know if you guys saw or not, but today there was a filing from a group that is trying to get, I don't know if it was dismissal or change of venue. Anyway, they're trying to state that the shareholders were circumvented in a vote, and that hopefully, this bankruptcy gets overturned, and maybe they pull it out. Maybe Link2 ends up being saved, and maybe it'll end up on the XRPL. But you're going to invest in the companies that are building that technology and providing the software or the tokenization as a service for whatever the real world assets are, and that would be how you'd be able to participate in the upside there, or just own the token, because all that value is going to have to be settled, right? We got Crypto Spoon. What's Sponge, not Spoon? Sorry, that's my bad, man. He says, legend. Hope you and the family are well. We're doing good. My 9-year-old bought his first 100 XRP this week. Start him young. Blessings to bring on the crypto clarity. Love that, dude. My son, I didn't grow up in a wealthy family, and I had a lot of negative thoughts around money when I was younger. My dad, till he passed away, thought that you had to be evil to make a bunch of money or do bad by people, or take advantage of people. It's not true at all. The more value you provide society, the better off you're going to be, and the more money people would be willing to pay you in exchange for the value that you're providing. You always want other people to get more value than they're paying, right? Ideally, that's how it works. And so there's a lot of things I talk to him about on a regular basis, my son, when it comes to just different things about money. Money is abundant. My parents told me, they don't print, money doesn't grow on trees. It absolutely does. It's literally paper, and they print it. They can type it into existence. There's always more of it. It is an abundant resource. And those that know how to use it as a good tool and are a good steward of it, more flows to them. So I'm sure that there's lots of people watching this that probably grew up in a similar household with similar beliefs. And the sooner you can change your paradigm around money, the more money will come to you, and the more good you can do in the world with that tool and that resource. So anyway, excited to see that your boy is learning how to invest early. That's a good skill to be teaching him. We got Prez Nick. He says, Jake, my guy, thanks for the insights on everything. Based on everything that's going on, let's say you wake up and it's November. What's XRP's price? Worst case scenario. Post XRP appreciation, your opinion on treasury bills and bonds. I do think that they're going to lower interest rates here in the US, which is good and bad, right? It does allow you to borrow money at a cheaper interest rate. It allows for people to invest in businesses and purchase properties, but you're going to see assets go up and to the right if that happens. If they lower interest rates, might be cheaper to borrow the money to purchase the home, but the home's price is going to be higher. So your monthly payment might be less, but I think a healthy economy should be able to maintain a 5 or 6% interest rate. If you have real growth in GDP, and it's not just artificial, then you should be able to maintain somewhere between 5 and 6% on the interest rates. That's a fair interest rate. You know, if you're holding money in a checking, or not a checking account, but a savings account, you should be generating, like, they're using that money to go do other things with it. They probably are generating 15, 20, 30, 40% if it's credit cards, easily, 25 to 30% on the money that they're lending people on credit cards. So they can easily pay you, 5%. That's fair. So anyway, I think that that's where things are headed. I do think that we're going to see a reduction in interest rates, unfortunately, here domestically in the U.S., but hopefully over time they do stabilize somewhere between 5 and 6. Worst case scenario for XRP's price in November. It's very event driven. If we do get the stablecoin, the Genius Act passed this week, and Tether, there is that, what I talked about at the beginning of this, where they come out and they cut Tether's legs out from underneath it. There's going to be a liquidity crisis. You got the reverse carry trade. All of the things I'm talking about look as though they're culminating for the perfect storm for XRP to have a supply shock and go significantly higher. But all of those things are required, including the ETFs. Like, you need the launch of that. You're not going to have retail drive the value of XRP any higher than it is right now. The volume that you're seeing on XRP is already from institutions. It's people buying for treasuries of their corporation. It is people stacking it for the ETFs in anticipation of those going live and being approved. You're not going to get higher than a $2 or $3 XRP without institutional adoption, and institutional adoption isn't going to come without regulation or stable coins being issued and all of the other things that are in the imminent horizon here. So let all of those things considered, if they do happen, I think you could easily see, again, like I've been talking about, a 3 or 4 digit XRP by the end of the year is very reasonable under those conditions. But it is condition driven. It's not just like magical pixie fairy dust and somebody flips a switch and that's what happens. There are real world events that have to transpire in order to drive a supply shock and have a supply and demand dynamic that pushes the price to those levels. So I know everybody wants a timeline and they want a price and, like, when should I sell? I should probably put my disclaimer in here. I am not a financial advisor. None of this is financial advice. It's only for educational and entertainment purposes only. If you need a financial advisor, you should absolutely reach out to Digital Wealth Partners. It is the SEC registered RIA that I own underneath the family office, and they can absolutely provide you financial advice there. Also, all that I'm stating here are my own opinions. They are not opinions of the firm. They are not opinions of Digital Ascension Group or of Digital Wealth Partners. These are my opinions and mine alone. And so just take everything with a grain of salt. I am just some guy on the internet. So this is my legal. I have to say all these things. I believe everything that I'm saying. There's been a couple other people that have come at me sideways and said, profiteering or like this, that, or the other. I can't do that, man. I sold insurance for a short period of time, and I was helping people when I was doing that, and I was okay with that. I did industrial sales for almost a decade, and I've never been like a used car salesman. I feel slimy when I try to sell something that I don't believe in, or is in misalignment with my center. So anything that I come in here and talk about, I absolutely believe. I try to be as transparent as possible in my conversations with people and here publicly. But people are going to say what they're going to say, and that's okay. Not everybody needs to get the message, and we don't necessarily want to work with everybody either. If you're a little bit polarizing, I think that's a good thing. You're going to draw in the people that you're in alignment with and you're going to do well with, and other people that you might not do so well with are going to be repelled. So I'm good with that. We got DR with the super chat. They say, "Hey Jake, just opened the LLC. Awesome, man. Contributed 50,000 XRP. Now been in the space holding since March of 2016 and hold a significantly more. Should I have moved all of it or am I okay to do it later after price appreciation? Um, I don't know what your long-term plans are, DR. So without further context about, let's say, that's the portion that you wanted to keep and be able to manage within your estate, but the rest of it you wanted to set up a foundation with. Who am I to tell you not to do that out of your personal name? The LLC, if your assets are in it, provides a lot of protections. I will say this, because of the corporate veil service and us setting it up in Wyoming, and you have charging order protection there in Wyoming. If you did rear end somebody and they find out you got a lot of money and they come after you legally, if you do keep assets in your personal name, they can get those assets. Now, maybe you say it's on a cold wallet, they won't ever be able to see them. They're going to look through your bank records in a due diligence process. They could be subpoenaed by the court, and they can find that crypto. So if you've protected it inside of an LLC or inside of a trust, if the LLC is done correctly, it acts very strongly in a court of law, and they wouldn't be able to pierce that corporate veil or get to those assets. The most they could do is put a charging order against it. And if you've set yourself up as the first creditor, which is what we help people do, you don't have to worry about that. They're not going to be able to get to those assets. So again, like, I know this is, cheesy, but the wealthy own nothing and control everything. And so if that's the same moniker that you're going to be adopting, it probably makes sense to move the assets in there. But again, I don't know your long-term plans. I don't know your situation. I don't know what your goals are with the assets. And so that may not be the best choice. I'm just speaking to general situation here. We got Cody. Hey, what's up, Cody? Says, love your content. After crypto pill passes, do you see implementation taking months? No, I do not. Do you think they're ready to flip the switch? Yes, I do. Which system with systems already in place day one? So Monday, on the 14th, we had ISO 20022 go live. And that's the messaging layer that is a prelude or pre-qualifier for instant settlement. They have to have that in place before they can settle instantly, and there has to be enough liquidity in the asset that they're going to be able to use to settle real time. So the messaging is a prerequisite. I know a lot of people talk about, ISO compliant tokens. There are no ISO compliant tokens. That is a messaging standard that the banks use. Now, there's some software that a few companies have developed that leverage digital assets to be able to settle real time that also are compliant with that messaging standard. RippleNet being one of those, Hyperledger being one of those, and really those are the only two. If you want to get down to like the nitty gritty of it. So XRP and XLM can be used alongside the implementation of that to settle things real time. But again, you need regulatory clarity. You need stable coins issued on those networks. You need liquidity in those networks and those tokens. And there are no XLM ETFs. There's a couple of HBAR ETFs, and they have a stable coin factory, or can't think of the term that they use, but I do think you'll get some stable coins issued on Hedera. The mechanism by which they're going to drive massive amounts of liquidity into XRP and cause the supply and demand shock is through the spot ETFs. And that's also how I think you're going to see a rotation from Bitcoin and all of the liquidity that they've put in there in this alt season into XRP almost exclusively, because it and ETH are the only two other altcoins that have ETFs issued. Well, I think XRP will in the near future. And we got Solana and some other jurisdictions, Canada being one of those. We talked to 3IQ. You guys can watch me talk to Pascal here on the channel if you want to go check out that interview. Shout out to them for the XRP ETF also there in Canada, first mover on that. So anyway, yeah, I absolutely think that everything is ready to go, and they do just need, it's not a flip of the switch, but it is the catalyst to play out, and then imminently the price would go significantly higher. AJ says, good evening. How are you, sir? As usual, thanks for taking the time. Absolutely. I was sad to miss Monday. I enjoy these. With the Genius Act already passing the Senate, It needs to vote tomorrow to get to Trump's desk, correct? Yep. Yeah, just the House needs to vote it through. And based again on my time in DC earlier this week, all the Congress men and women that we talked to advocating for the bill to pass, I do believe that they will vote the Genius Act through. Clarity, I think they're going to punt that. I think it's probably going to be Q4 next year before Clarity goes through. And on that topic, that really gives a pretty big moat to a few networks if they wait on the Clarity Act, but they get the Genius Act through or the Genius Bill. Networks that have stable coins issued on them are going to have a huge head start and advantage over other networks that do not. So just think about that. Think about the networks that stable coins are issued on. Solana, Tron, Ethereum, EVM sidechain on the XRPL, Hyperledger, Hedera. Anyway, just pointing that out. We got Jay. He says, good evening, legend. What's up, man? Thank you for all that you do. After Wyoming LLC and joining Carbon One, what percentage can I borrow against my crypto? They do 45% through our partners with Arch Lending. 45% LTV. And I think that's responsible. Like, that's probably the most that you want to borrow against your XRP anyway, because if you're leveraging it like some people are doing with Bitcoin or ETH at 80, 90%, and you do see a pullback in the market, which happens all the time, 20, 30% drawdown is not unusual in crypto. And especially on Friday, if we do get a press conference about Tether, I think you could see more than that. So just be aware, there are risks associated with borrowing. I'm not an advocate for it, but we do provide those capabilities for people in the mastermind and through Digital Wealth Partners. If you want to join the mastermind, if that sounds cool to you, I haven't even talked about this tonight, but you can go to beyondbroke.com. Here it is right here at the top of the screen, and use the code beyondbroke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO, get you a free month there in the group. We are going to lock that down on the other side of a $10 XRP, which doesn't seem that far in the future. And it is going to be substantially more expensive to participate in the group. So if you want to lock it in right now, get in for free for a whole month, see if you like it or not. If you don't like it, you cancel. Not a big deal. It's month to month. There's no requirement. We have over 4,000 people there in the mastermind that have significant allocations, whatever that means for them, to digital assets, and they want to learn more about financial education, business resources. We have people come in, talk about insurance and credit, estate planning, all the things that you would want to know if you are going to come into a lot of money. We have the resources and people there in the group to be able to help you on the other side of price appreciation. And we do private deals there in the group. So if you want other types of investments, on post price appreciation outside of just crypto, and exclusive stuff that you're not going to get anywhere else. Again, trying to bring as much value as we can there. So again, it's beyondbroke.com right here at the top of the screen, and then just put in the code beyondbroke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO, get you a free month there in the mastermind, where you can borrow against your crypto if you are in Carbon One. We got Sir Ooze. He says, salute fam, reporting for some education. Let's go. Awesome, dude. Appreciate you being here. Thank you for the super chat. We got a long way to go, and I'm already 50 minutes in, so we're going to pick up pace here a little bit. Rob, thank you, dude. You didn't have to get. Thank you so much for the super chat, brother. He says, hey Jake, new one I heard today. When you move your XRP off the chain into a cold, yeah, this guy is talking about. I don't know what that guy's talking about. I don't know if he's touching on Uphold or the vault system that they have or what's going on. I frequently move my assets off of exchanges into my cold wallet and back onto exchanges and sell some occasionally for treasury. And so just quick access, if it's at Anchorage, I will say this, it's more of a long-term hold deal at Anchorage. You're going to get a lot of benefit because we have opportunities to be able to generate returns on your XRP or now your Bitcoin in the near future. And then in addition to that, we do have ways to be able to borrow against it. We'll have other ways that are kind of like a CD or money market for your XRP in the near future, which is pretty cool. So you just sit it there and it earns interest for you. It stays in institutional custody, insured, segregated, bankruptcy remote, all the cool stuff that makes you feel warm and fuzzy and you sleep good at night. this guy that made that video, he's driving in his car. He's got his, I can't think of the, like, what's the Jesus necklace? I can't think of it. Anyway, there's a lot of crazy people out there, and people say things so that they can get views and clicks. And we're guilty of it too. I just transparently, like, we try to make the thumbnails catchy or the titles of videos catchy, so that people will click and, hopefully learn something on the channel and subscribe and participate in the community. And we're able to, cultivate a relationship and provide value for people. So I get it. Like, I get it. But at the same time, I don't understand why people want to spread misinformation or scare. Again, I'm not trying to scare people. I want to empower people to make good decisions and understand consequences and also benefits from whatever they're doing. So for him to share that, I appreciate your super chat. But I've had no issues. And you can also see the on-chain transactions. If you want to go to XRP scan, you can absolutely see your assets go from the exchange wallet, which is an omnibus account where you have a tag number for your XRP, and you move it to the, your wallet, which does not have a tag number, off of the exchange, which is a separate wallet of anything the exchange owns, and then you can move it back. They're not going to lock you out. They're not going to freeze your account. I do think there's going to come a day where you're not able to buy it off of exchanges. I've talked about that before. But in the short term here, I think you're good. And there are going to be situations where there's a large run. Coinbase always shuts down. Uphold shut down in the past when there's a large run and they see a huge volume on their server and a lot of people influx the exchange at one time. It's just a bandwidth issue. It's not anything to do with the blockchain itself. So don't let people scare you. Again, I don't understand people's intentions with that stuff. We got Sona. He says, "Hey Jake, do you have any recommendations for where to get crypto taxes and reporting done? If you're holding it on an exchange, you'll get a 1099 DA at the end of the year, which is a 1099 digital asset form. If you're holding it on a cold wallet, I would recommend, using Coinly or CoinLedger or some of the other softwares out there where you can connect that wallet and your exchanges, and it'll give you an itemized report of transactions and profit and loss. If you're doing some really crazy stuff, with DeFi and airdrops and yield farming and whatever else you're doing, and you have a bunch of income off your crypto, you probably want something a little bit more robust. Count on Sheep is a good group here in the US. You've got Consensus Layer there in Australia that does a good job. And there's actually another firm, I can't think of the name of them, there in Australia, and they're more on the degen side also. They want, they're dealing with all of those types of transactions, staking and the like, which I don't really consider staking a degen activity, but if you're like airdrop farming and, trading meme coins and a bunch of NFTs and all that stuff, it's probably more on the degen side. But if you're doing all that, then you probably want an accountant that's versed in it. Whereas if you're just long-term holding and swing trading some stuff, a regular accountant's fine, and you just want to use Coinly or one of these other softwares and connect stuff and be able to get a profit loss statement on it. If you do have a longer history and you haven't done your taxes on your crypto, you might reach out to Node 40. They have a very robust software, and they can trace it back to inception, go through all the wallets and everything, and get you a clear picture of what's owed for taxes or help you mitigate taxes. They do a really good job of that too. So Perry over there at Node 40 has a really good software and does a really good job of that as well. We got Matthew. What's up, man? He says, Jake, you're awesome. Thanks, dude. Do you think that CBDCs will be made against the law? If they made legal, would the Fed CBDC hurt XRP? These are normal questions that people have. I've answered them probably over 1,000 times at this point. But new people, right? So I appreciate your question, Matthew. I do think that I think they're going to outlaw CBDC here in the US. It just doesn't fit with our culture. You want capitalism, you want private stable coins, and Jerome Powell's already said that those are going to exist. When it comes to a central bank digital currency that's issued by the Fed, I don't think that that's going to happen. You might get a treasury issued CBDC at some point in the future, or you might get state issued money. Texas is talking about backing currency with gold. They've made gold, and a couple other states have made gold and silver currency or money. Again, you can trade, barter, sell, buy stuff in hard precious metals, which is cool. In addition to that, Texas also set up a Bitcoin strategic reserve bill that passed. So yeah, I think that there may be state issued stable coins, but I don't think we're ever going to get a central bank digital currency here in the US. And even if it did, it wouldn't hurt XRP because you need to be able to swap trustlessly between or fully trusted between that and another one for these banks and institutions. And you need an intermediary bridge asset that's neutral and can't be frozen or clawed back or any of that stuff. No, there's no counterparty risk. With a Fed CBDC, there would absolutely be counterparty risk, and other people wouldn't want to use it, just like they want to, move away from the US dollar now so that they can't be sanctioned. Wayne, what's up, Wayne? He says, once the crypto acts are passed, how long before the ETFs are approved? Got my crypto custody with DWP last week. Awesome, dude. So for those who don't know, that's Digital Wealth Partners. That is our SEC registered RIA that does provide institutional custody. We be able to provide you advice on your digital assets. There's insurance on your assets held there, segregated, bankruptcy remote. Up to $100 million is the insurance policy through Lloyd's of London. Hold XRP, Bitcoin, Solana, Matic, Chainlink, Ethereum, Trump token. I know. So silly. Anyway, yeah, if that's something that interests you, if you have at least 100,000 XRP or at least $500,000 in your portfolio, we would love to have a conversation with you and see if that's something that we could help you with. You're just going to go to digitalwealthpartners.net and fill out the contact us form if you would like, an advisor and a certified financial advisor for your digital assets. He says, thanks for answering the email so quickly. Absolutely, dude. I will say this too, we're starting to get caught up on everything. We did have a lull in turnaround times for emails and stuff, so I apologize to anybody that was affected by that. We had a lot of people with a lot of interest over the last 45 days here. But again, starting to quell that down. So you should be getting some more timely responses if you do interact with our team, either at Digital Family Office or at Digital Wealth Partners. Michael, what's up, man? He says, hey, Jake, thanks for the education. Could XRP be deemed a commodity instead of a utility? And if so, what would that do to the price? In 2015, there was a lawsuit with FinCEN, and they designated XRP a currency here in the US. So I don't know where that ruling went or why people don't have the reverence for it that I think that they should. XRP could end up a commodity. There's already futures on XRP, and Bitcoin has been designated a commodity and governed by the CFTC. The head of the CFTC has met with Ripple multiple times, so maybe it does end up going that direction. I don't really care what they call it as long as it has clarity. And it's not ever going to be a security of Ripple. I mean, that's already been cleared in the case. So yeah, a commodity or a currency, either one of those I would really be fine with. But I think you might be right. I think it may end up a commodity. It wouldn't hurt the utility of it either way. Rock Corp says, Mr. Legend, what's up, man? Has the new LLC operating agreement paperwork been finalized? Sorry to keep asking. Yeah, it has. You should just reach out to Jonathan. They're at Digital Family Office, and if you have the LLC paperwork and you got it to begin with, you have his email, and you just follow up with him, and he would be able to provide you the new operating agreement for your LLC. We've got Cotton Clarksa. How much is banking industry behind the holdup on the Clarity Act? specifically and any banking efforts against the anti-CBDC effort in these acts. Clarity Act is a market infrastructure bill, and there's still a lot of nuance in that bill about how different tokenized assets would be governed and how they would work. I don't think that that's going to get passed anytime soon, and I don't think it's anything because of the banks. They want this technology. It significantly reduced costs for them. The banks, well, I'll state this. So the banks have been ready to use this for at least 5 years. I'm going to be Kermit and sip my cup of coffee, but the banks have been ready to use this for at least 5 years. So themselves, not custody it for us. Like they're still 12 or 18 months away for dealing with retail. But for themselves, they've had the infrastructure for a long time for this technology. So they are definitely not the holdup. Now, when it comes to issuing tokenized securities or, what is an ICO or any of the other things around like what's in the Clarity Act, I don't think that the banking people have any problem there. They don't want the CBDC. They all want to be able to issue their own tokens, their own stable coins, and be able to hold the treasuries and earn the interest off of that and not have to pass that on to any of the people holding or using their stable coin. Like this is really lucrative. Like Tether has made a lot of money, and they've shown that this model is extremely lucrative for people that are issuing stable coins. They're the most profitable company in the world per capita. They have 100 people working for them. And they cleared like $5.6 billion in Q1. So it's very profitable if you're doing it at scale. And the banks want in on this. They're not going to hold up that. The Clarity Act going to have to do with other tokenized real world assets and market infrastructure, much separate of what a lot of banks are going to deal with. It's more this, CFTC and the SEC and like who governs what and like how it's issued and markets being tokenized, stock market, commodities, FX, all of those. That's going to come from the other. And again, you can still have settlement real time on the back end of these markets without the markets themselves being tokenized. So just be aware of that. Daniel D. Do you think that the Genius Act will need amendments from the House? No, they will pass it as is, and that is exactly what I heard over and over again this week. Randy Graves says, "Hey Jake, looks like XLM follows XRP pretty closely on the charts. Do you think XRP moons XLM might follow?" Nope, they absolutely decoupled when there was an announcement for the ETF last time for XRP, and they will do again. XLM will not follow XRP this go. In my opinion, this is just my opinion. Levi, I like your name. That's my middle name. Is around 250 XRP a good amount to be around? Also, what's your prediction of XRP by August 1st? Keep going like we're going, $5. And XRP, I would say this: go look at rich.list, rich-list. Let me see here. Let me pull it up. It's the rich list for XRP. Rich-list.info. And that'll tell you where you sit on the spectrum of people and wallets that hold XRP. And then based on that, you can kind of discern what is a good amount for you. And again, like if you own any, you're still doing better than 99.999% of the population. Josh R says, Jake, you're absolute legend. Appreciate you, man. Thanks. Thoughts on the report that came out today about the US only having 28,000 Bitcoin left? Everyone joined the mastermind. Best money besides XRP I've ever spent. Thank you, Josh. Really appreciate that, man. It really means a lot. And again, if you guys do want to join the mastermind, you can check it out for free. You just go to beyondbroke.com, and then you're going to use the code. It's up here at the top, right over here. Beyond Broke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO, like Mary Oscar. Get you a free month there in the group. Come into the Discord, see what it's all about. Over 4,000 people there in the group, which is just super blessed and grateful for the community that we've been able to build and the culture also, which is really cool. Yeah, interesting that the U.S. has been dumping their Bitcoin, if that's true. I don't know what the source is on that. Like, again, people put out a lot of information, and they're like, I want to know the source before I legitimize it, but it is interesting if it's true. I think we've already seen these other 14 crypto, these Bitcoin wallets move and start to liquidate Bitcoin that have been dormant since 2010. Why would they be doing that right now? Why would they be selling into this volume if they didn't know that the price was going to be substantially less? There was a tweet that a guy put out. Millionaire Habit Steve or something is the guy's name. He normally has some really good content, but he was like, I think I'm going to start dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin $1,000 a week. And I was like, that is a horrible idea right now, Steve. And all the Bitcoin maxis jumped on me and were like, you're stupid. This isn't anywhere close to the top, blah, blah, blah. You know how they are. Look, I like Bitcoin. I think it'll probably be around, but it is going to be one or the other. It either goes to 0 or 1 million. I don't know which of those it's going to be, but if I had to guess, I'm going to say 0, but I could be wrong. And I've been wrong up to this point. I thought 75K was going to be the top. That was absolutely not the top. So probably don't listen to me. And those people definitely didn't want to. But anyway, dollar cost averaging is normally the way to go. We got a couple other super chats here. We got Viclo32, they say, hey, Mr. Legend, is Tangem a safe cold wallet? What's more bullish other than XRP, HBAR, XLM? Thanks. I don't own any HBAR and XLM. I love them both. I think that they're great opportunities. I just think the ROI on XRP is so much greater than anything else at this time that I don't own anything else. I did buy a little hash, and I said that before. It's the token on provenance. And again, none of this is financial advice. You make your own investment decisions. But if you want to go check that out, it's on Figure Markets, I think is the play. And Mike Cagney, if you want to check out on the YouTube channel, we had an interview with him, who's the co-founder, and one of the leaders there at Provenance Blockchain. Super sharp, very intelligent guy. So I have high hopes for that token and blockchain. But yeah, Tangem's great. I like Tangem. It's a good wallet. Home Base Income 101 says, do people pay less taxes cashing out cap gains from a business crypto account? Discuss the benefits of business crypto account again. Teach us, Jay. You pay the same amount. So if you file an LLC and you pay yourself a reasonable salary, that's one of the qualifications. So you got to pay yourself somewhere between $50,000 and $70,000 a year to manage that, or you need to, pay your spouse out of the LLC that amount to manage it. That's what a lot of people do. If you file a single member LLC, you might say it's manager managed and put your spouse as the manager and pay them. And then you can take dividends out of the corporation, and you don't have to pay the 13.5% tax on that for Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, the employment tax, basically. You won't have to pay those on any dividends. So that's a way that you can save some money. But the cap gains, those are going to flow through if you file as an S Corp. The benefit is you're going to be able to spend the money in a way where you can offset that income. So let's say you go buy a vehicle, Section 709, is it 7? No, 709 is the tax form. 179, Section 179 of the tax code is software and heavy vehicles or heavy equipment. Anything over 6,000 pounds is considered heavy equipment. So if you buy a jet, if you buy a yacht, if you buy, a G-Wagon, you're going to get to write off the full amount of that purchase in the first year, even if you finance it. So let's say you put 20% down on the G-Wagon for 200 grand. You put 40 grand down, but you get to write off 200,000 against your income. So you basically just saved, if your tax bracket of 37%, you're going to save, $50,000 in taxes, maybe more than that, because you're going to, offset another 160 grand in addition to what you had to spend. So anyway, there's a bunch of stuff. The tax code's there to help you. It's not there to hurt you. If you have a business, they give you lots of legal ways to not pay taxes. But if you are just a person, you're pretty screwed. Like, you're going to get the standard deduction. And if you make a bunch of money, you're going to owe a bunch of taxes. So that's why the wealthy don't own anything. They hold it in corporations and trusts or insurance policies, which we also do. And that's how they hold their assets away from themselves, still control everything. But they don't own anything, so nobody can tax them on it, and nobody can take it from them because it's not in their name. So, you're still going to have the same amount of tax implications. You just have way more depth in ways that you can offset that taxable income if it's inside of an LLC. Honest Aim, what's up, man? He says, Jake the Legend, thanks for going to DC, fighting the good fight. What surprised you? Who knew did you like, and who did you not care for? Surprises. We talked to Democrats and Republicans. And I normally don't talk about politics on here. I'm pretty middle of the aisle. Like, there's some issues where I kind of lean left, and there's some issues where I definitely lean right. So, I think most people are like that. I think most people are in the middle of the bell curve. And at this point, the political parties are like high one way or the end. And that's why you got Elon talking about the American Party as the third party. Just interesting stuff coming up. But on Capitol Hill, all these people are just cool people. And they're there representing their district, and talk to them just like a regular person. I gave them the same stuff that I give you guys. Like, what does this technology do? Do you use a payment app? Absolutely. Okay, what if you wanted to send money from Venmo to Cash App? Well, we can't do that. Well, if they implement this technology, you could. What if you wanted to move that money to your bank account without the fee? Well, you can't. Well, but with this, you could, right? So that's the same explanation that I give you guys to break it down and distill it and make it easy for you. I gave the congressmen that, and they were like, these are really good. This is good ammo. Like, this makes it simple to understand. Like, thank you. But yeah, it was just interesting, different conversations, all good people. And they're there to do their job and represent their district. So nothing really surprised me, but it was well worth it. I enjoyed it. We got Group 1 Gavin. Thank you for the super chat, by the way. He says, loved your email regarding concierge service and family office. You really have been working hard. What you offer is super impressive. Grateful to connect with you in the group. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's not always fun, but we hustle hard, and we want to curate these partnerships and build all these things out in front of everybody and make sure that you have it when you need it. I try to stay, 3 to 5 steps ahead of even my team, curating partnerships and bringing on the right people. My job as a CEO and managing director is 3 things. 1, to make sure the company's capitalized, the resources. I got to make sure there's enough resources for the team. I'm supposed to make sure that they have enough resources to be successful, whether that's education or partnerships or software or whatever else it is. I try to empower my employees to make sure that they have everything to be successful. And then in addition to that, cast vision, right? I know exactly where we're going. I don't know all the little nitty gritty pieces of how we're going to get there, but I have the big pieces in place. And my team is really good at putting those together. And so, just super blessed and grateful for the team that we've been able to build over the last 3 years. And it's continued to grow. We just brought on another 2 team members on Monday this week. We got a head of operations, Digital Wealth Partners, and also a new advisor over there. Joe Slattery is now on our team. So a lot of people, if you are new to DWP, he may end up your advisor. Continue to build out all the people there. to be able to make sure we're taking good care of our clients. Charlie, what's up, man? He says, thank you for all that you do. Absolutely do. Tinfoil hat time. Okay. I've heard the passing around conversation, public-private partnerships. Could Ripple give the government 3 escrow rounds, 10K, boom, debt gone? It's a little jumbled here, but I'm going to do my best at interpreting what you meant. There's not been a full audit of the U.S. government's balance sheet to determine what crypto they own and what they don't own. David Sachs has already stated that. So when the Fed, met with Ripple in 2014, they could have orchestrated one of those, NDAs where there's a pre-allocated contract for the U.S. government, or they could use eminent domain because Ripple's a corporation here in the U.S. and take the escrow. Maybe the IMF ends up with the escrow, but if the U.S. government ended up with the escrow, or a large portion or allocation of XRP, and it appreciated substantially, it could absolutely offset the debt. And you need something like that. Not like a lot of people are like, yeah, just keep buying Bitcoin, it'll offset the debt. There's not enough. Even if Bitcoin goes to 1 million, it's an 8x, 9x from here, 9x from here. There's not enough meat on that bone to really offset the debt. You need something that's going to move 100x, 200x, 500x, 1000x times from where its current price is in order to get to a high enough value to be able to offset. What are we at? $37 trillion now. It's going to have to be something that can move exponentially very quickly. And so I do think that there's a high probability that the U.S. government owns a substantial amount of XRP through one means or another, and that does help them offset the debt and restructure the debt, which is what I think the whole purpose of XRP actually is in the background, if people knew. Wells T, what's up? They say, hey, Jake, what if I need to take a little bit of profits before setting up the LLC, given I need the capital to pay for the LLC setup? Don't worry about it, dude. Hold. If you're having to take profits to set up the LLC, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way, you probably don't have enough to warrant the LLC. Maybe you do. Maybe I'm way off. But, you probably need somewhere around $80,000 in current total portfolio value or more in order to really warrant the LLC you're setting it up. On the other side of price appreciation, you'll have way more than enough to set it up. You can, and I'm not advocating for this, but you could borrow against it and use those funds to do it. But you do need a way to service the debt if you're going to do that. So just be cognizant of that, not recommending it. But I really wouldn't sell XRP or any other digital asset to purchase the LLC. And look, like we would make that money if you did that. I don't think it's the best use of your funds. I think you should just keep it in the crypto. Or figure out how to hustle and make an extra $2,000. I would do that before I sold any XRP or digital assets. Crypto George, what's up? Hey, thanks for the work that you do. Thank you for the super chat, sir. The community that would be, what would be your recommendation? I hope LLC. I opened an LLC because I was originally planning invest 50K USD on XRP, but I can only do 15K to 20K now. I don't think you need, again, probably shooting myself in the foot here, but I would rather people, if you have less than $80,000 in portfolio value, just keep buying crypto. Like, don't give us the money. Don't set up the LLC until you're above that. You're not going to garner the benefit until you're north of that. 50, if you're single, 50 grand. And the reason for that is a couple things, but like mainly the gift tax exemption here in the US. You get 13.99 million that you can gift out of your taxable estate. But let's say you had $50,000 worth of XRP today, you'd have like 16,000 XRP. Is that right? 3 times 17. You're like 17.5 on XRP at $3. At that point, cool. You may want to set it up. Especially as XRP continues to appreciate in value, you're not going to get as many XRP for the $2,000. So it probably at a cost to benefit makes sense around the price that it is now. If you had 17,500 XRP to set up an LLC, but you said invest 15 to 20 grand, so you're not buying that much XRP. Yeah, I would continue to purchase. And again, that's not to my benefit; it's to your benefit. I want to make sure people are making the best choices with their capital. Sultan Mohammed, what's up, man? He says, hello, brother. Emailed Miriam and Chris to transfer assets from Anchorage, no response in 2 days. What should I do? Any recommendations to organize files in LLC? You're not the only one on that, and I appreciate you bringing it to my attention, Sultan. I will reach out to our funding team over there at Anchorage and figure out what the deal is. We have a lot of people that are anxious to get their assets into institutional custody, and for them not to be responding is unacceptable. They're a partner of ours. We use Securitize to help as a TAMP. They're a turnkey asset manager. They do the reporting and billing on the assets and provide you a secure portal to be able to check the value of your assets and execute trades and do other stuff in there. And they're a partner on that. But sometimes they have limited resources. They're kind of like the redheaded stepchild of Securitize, unfortunately. Like they just kind of underfunded because they're so focused on, the rest of their business. I don't want to say that this is kind of like an afterthought for them, but it's not a huge profit center for sure. And so they don't pay as much attention as I would like them to, or our clients would like them to. So I'll follow up with them, Sultan, and we'll get you something back so that you can get your account funded. Nick, what's up, man? He says, hey, mate, whiskey time again. Cheers, brother. Appreciate you. Shout out to the tea lady as well. Starting to feel that we were off to the races. Join the Beyond Broke Mastermind. Is there a guide to help me navigate the menu? Thanks for what you're doing. Absolutely, dude. Thank you so much for being a part of the community and getting in before price appreciation. Again, we're going to lock it down post $10 XRP, and it's going to be $1,000 a month for anybody to participate in the group. If you want to go ahead and get in before that's the case, you can use the code Beyond Broke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO gets you a free month there in the Beyond Broke Mastermind. And again, if you don't like it, you just cancel. It's not like it's a long-term contract or anything, but we got 4,000 people in there that think it's pretty good. If you want to go to the FAQ channel there in the Discord, it's in the general section on the channels on the left-hand side. When you log into Discord, there's an FAQ channel, and it walks you through end to end, pretty much everything you need to know. Any questions that you might have, where you're going to find stuff. We also have an Australian channel where you're going to find a lot of other Aussies. We have a Canadian channel. We have a UK channel where you're going to be able to find other people in your jurisdiction that have interest in digital assets and exposure here, and want to make sure that they're being proactive and taking advantage of this opportunity. So I think that that's pretty cool that you can find other people, in your part of the world on an online forum that you can meet with and have a conversation, and you can kind of partner up because it gets lonely. Things are starting to come around now, and there's a lot more chat around crypto, but there for a long time, kind of feel like you're on an island if you're just on your own. So appreciate you joining the group and excited to have you in there. And thank you for the super chat. John, what's up, John? He says, Jake the man. What's up, dude? What do you think of Stella? I'm assuming you mean Stellar Lumens. In the future, can XRP absorb it? The mastermind is a great value. Shout out to all the involved in the effort. Thank you, man. So that's cool. Thank you for the flowers. I'll let all of our moderators know that they're doing a good job in there, and they are very much appreciated. Again, super blessed and grateful for the community that we have there in the mastermind. So, Stellar is peer-to-peer. the merchant services and the merchant service providers that we've talked to are leveraging Hyperledger, and they will leverage XLM to be able to do that. Facilitate, peer-to-peer payments, and you got Velo, and you got Stronghold, and you got Zbeck, and like all these other things that are built on top of that. Streaming payments and doing other stuff. Like that's what that's going to be for. XRP is the back-end settlement or the backbone of the financial system, kind of like the bond market, but for settlement of value globally. And it's for high-value payments, not for small micro payments or peer-to-peer payments. So I think that both of them will exist independent of one another, and they will both see substantial adoption. I just think that XRP has to be a substantially higher price to be able to settle the value that it needs to versus the other. Jeremiah says, what got your attention most out of the new IRS rules for tracking crypto transactions, and where is the owl? I fixed my TV if you're asking about the owl that was on the TV. And what did I get most attention about IRS rules for tracking crypto transactions? I haven't really read over it yet. It's not really tax time, so I haven't. My attention's in 1,000 places, just transparently. I rely on our tax attorneys and our CPAs to make sure that they're up on that. They're crypto tax certified, and that's their domain and expertise. And so I kind of get the cliff notes from them when there's a change. I say, hey, how does this affect us? And they go, da, 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 da. And then I don't have to read through, the IRS's rulings. They're going to be able to tell me, and they're going to be able to tell you. And that's the power and benefit of having the right professionals in your corner. We got Big K. What's up? They say, quick question. I have purchased some XRP through an exchange. However, I'm waiting for my cold wallet to arrive. How many days before it goes to the moon? If things play out like I hope they do, Friday could be very interesting for a myriad of reasons. The reverse carry trade looks like it's right on the precipice of unwinding. You just need oil. In addition to that, you've got the stablecoin bill likely going to be signed into existence on Friday, and potentially a press conference that's going to go after Tether on Friday. So do we have to wait through the weekend until a big Monday? Possible. But with all of those catalysts in place, we still need the ETFs and that launch. You still need the settlement of the case before I think BlackRock is going to throw their hat in the ring. So does price run up some before that, and then we get the real price run up on the other side of it? We're not slowing down here. Let's look at where the price is right now. That's the XRP versus Bitcoin chart. Back at $3. We're gonna back test $3 here, and then I think we're off to the races. So continuing to climb. Bitcoin's still at 118,000, 117,000, somewhere in there. I think we get one more push for Bitcoin and one more push for the rest of the market before we see a rotation into alts. I feel like everything's set up to go here. Maybe even within the next few days. David Johnston, again, not financial advice. Don't bet your house or your rent or your food or any of that on anything I'm saying. I'm just a guy on the internet. Don't ever invest more than you're willing to lose. Just say it that way. David, appreciate you on the super chat. He says, would you recommend moving my Coinbase account? I would like to eventually leverage it when possible. They provide leverage against Bitcoin. They've done over $1 billion in loans against Bitcoin there at Coinbase. And I'm highly confident they'll probably do that against XRP in some future. I don't know how long that's going to be. We are already operational at that. So if you want that benefit, we would love to work with you at Digital Wealth Partners. Jay says, what's up, Jake? What's up, man? How much value do you see Genius Act bringing to ROUSD in the short term? Thanks for everything that you do. I think it's going to be huge. I think that they are the poster child of exactly how they want this done, and that's why they've been talking to the Treasury, and why you've seen Anchorage start to delist USDC and onboard RLUSD. Amanda B says, hey, Jake, love the mastermind. That's awesome to hear. Thank you so much. And all that you do. Iowa Law states that if primary address is in Iowa, you must register LLC as a foreign entity if in Wyoming. Does this negate the anonymous Wyoming? So no, it does not. So in any public filing, just because you file reciprocity, it's not going to show up publicly. But on the public filing for the articles of organization and the EIN number, the registered agent's address is going to appear there along with their name and the attorney's name and not your name. So anybody that goes to look that up publicly, that's all that they're going to be able to find along with the certificate of good standing. They won't be able to figure out who's associated with it, even if you have to file reciprocity with Iowa or New York or California or many of the other states that do require that. We got Brandon. What's up? He says, if XRP does reach $100 by the end of the year, how will that affect your investment strategy? I will continue to diversify. So as XRP goes up, I will be borrowing against it, either buying more XRP, which again, I'm not telling anybody to do that. It's not a good choice to use leverage. Be responsible. But in addition, I'll be borrowing against it to fund lifestyle and then other investments. So I'd like to get some real estate. That's probably one of the first stops and purchases I'll make post price appreciation. I would like to be able to offset my income with the cost segregation analysis on that. And so if I have a portion of my XRP that's earning some returns and I buy some real estate, I'll be able to offset some of that income with the cost segregation. You know, a lot of times it takes a little bit for a property to start cash flowing, especially if it's in a secondary or tertiary market and you put a little extra money in it to fix it up and raise the rents. It could be 6 months to 12 months before you start getting, you know, the cash flow that you're wanting off that property, but you can use the cost seg immediately. So that's something that I'll be looking at. In addition to that, other boring businesses that cash flow. Cash flow is what I'm going to be going for to be able to fund lifestyle and purchase assets and do all of that. Now, will a portion of that go back into other digital assets? Absolutely. But it won't be, it'll be a very diversified portfolio on the other side to mitigate risk and increase income, right? Some people are going to, you know, continue to compound their XRP, but almost everybody that we've worked with so far has at least a portion of their XRP in the income fund that we put together. And we actually are going to pay the distribution on that for the first quarter this next week. So kudos to you guys that participated in that. It's a little less than 2% is what people are going to get paid out here for the first quarter. So if we have those types of returns every single quarter, we'd be right around 7% per year on your XRP. That's not guaranteed. It does fluctuate. It could be a negative quarter. You know, that's highly unlikely for the way that we structured it, but the possibility exists there. So there is some risk on it. But on a risk curve, you know, on a 1 to 10, it's probably like a 1.7. It's very low because we've mitigated any counterparty risk. So really excited about that. I think people are going to go gangbusters when they get a check off of their XRP and they didn't have to do anything. It's literally mailbox money. So excited for that in the near future. And that'll definitely be part of the investment strategy moving forward is working with digital wealth partners. I'll be glad to get some money off my XRP. Some cash flow. We got Mark Finn. He says, Jake the legend. What's up, dude? Do you know how many are buzzing over 4 to 5 digit XRP calls? Your energy is contagious. Your XRP Oracle, and we're all lucky to witness the big brains in action. I really appreciate the kind words, man. Look, like it's just supply and demand economics. It's not magic. It's not crystal ball. You know, like I don't have to do any of that stuff. These are real numbers that you can get to if you just do some math. And I know there's a lot of people out there that do a little TA and they think 10 to 13 bucks and that's the top and there's going to be a rotation and that's the end of the market. I have a different perspective too, because I've had a lot of conversations those people haven't. And I think that's what causes the conviction that I have. And so, I'm not going to bend a knee or succumb to that. There are a lot of people that don't necessarily agree with me, and that's okay. If I'm wrong, I will come out here publicly and say that I'm wrong, but I'm highly confident that I won't be. Otherwise, I wouldn't put this stuff out. There's a lot of credibility and risk in talking about this type of stuff, but I'm willing to take it because I think people need to know and understand why and how it's going to happen. KK Pond, what's up, man? He says, hey, Jake, if XRP is 1 to 2K and I earn $50,000 a month in yield, no selling, how does living off that work through the single member LLC I got from y'all? Is it income taxed? Can you break that down, the process? Thanks. Sure. So it would be, you're going to pay yourself a reasonable salary out of the corporation. In the eyes of the IRS, that's somewhere between $50,000 and $75,000 a year. So you could pay that to yourself or your spouse. So that's kind of base income. You're still going to pay the 13.5% taxes on that are W-2 taxes, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. Those will come out of that. In addition to that, you can take quarterly dividends out of the LLC. And then those would be, taxed at whatever the income bracket was. It is passed through taxation. So again, if you're buying things out of the LLC or making investments out of the LLC, you can do that. You can borrow money from the LLC that you owe back in a debt note. A lot of ways to structure that, right? So just be aware of those things. You do want to work with, a CPA, and make sure that you're not doing anything that's outside the lines or in the gray area. But there's a lot of different ways that you can leverage the corporation and the income that it's, generating to fund your lifestyle and mitigate taxes. But I would, I know enough to be dangerous, and I talk about a lot of that stuff. But again, I would work with a high-level CPA to make sure that you are doing everything above board. We're about an hour and a half in here, a little over that. So I'm going to try to get through this. I don't know how many super chats are left. Living Legacy is always good. He's like, this is how many super chats you have left. Let me see here if I can find him on Discord. Maybe he'll tell me how many are left. He always sends me a message, but I never read it in time. Let's see here. I don't see him tonight yet. So
Tell him you're a real person. Tell him you're a real person. It's just backwards on TikTok.
Oh, it's backwards over here on TikTok?
Well, yeah, it always is. You got fingers. You're not an AI. It's a real TikTok account.
It's the real deal. It's me. I haven't been answering questions over here, so I apologize for that.
It's not that any good. I'm answering them.
Oh, my wife's wonderful. She does a good job of managing a lot of our social media. I really appreciate her. She's nice sometimes. Sometimes she's mean. Which I'm sure a lot of the guys out there, you'll understand exactly what that means. Yo, Jake, legend. Thanks for all that you do. Join the mastermind. Awesome. Set up the LLC onboarded. Hell yeah, dude. Congrats. After price appreciation, you are worth, say, 100 million. How would you borrow, say, 20 million and not lose your assets? And how does it get paid back? So, great question. There's a couple different ways that you could structure this. If you're worth $100 million, PPLI is definitely a vehicle that you probably would want to know about. When I put together the webinar for people that had 500,000 XRP, that was one of the main vehicles we discussed in that webinar was private placement life insurance. And you would want to structure a policy that you could be able to borrow against. Now, it takes some time. Most of those need to be a 5-pay or a 10-pay, which means you pay that over a period of time. And then you're able to, borrow against the cash value in that policy as the assets appreciate. You could borrow against those assets inside the LLC and draw down a line of credit against them. And then as they appreciate, you just refinance the loan with the same assets. And you might buy an annuity that would make the interest payments for you so that you don't have to worry about that. And you could live off the rest, or use it to fund your lifestyle, or, buy a business, do whatever you want to do with money because it's tax-free since debt is not income. You do need to service the debt though. So again, it's interest only on most of these notes with the balloon payment at the end for the total. So hopefully maybe you're going to buy an asset with it that doubles in value over 12 months or over the term of the note, and then you're able to sell that investment, recoup your original, and have another 20 million, and then pay off the original note, and you've still got the asset or a portion of the asset or the company. That'd be a great way to do that. Or you buy public stock that's going to double over a 3 to 5 year period, and then you're able to borrow against that and be able to pay off the original note on the other side, maybe at a lower interest rate. And that is how wealthy people grow their portfolio. They buy, borrow, die. And most of the time they use the insurance vehicle and some reinsurance to be able to pay off the debt. So if you got it inside of an insurance policy and you borrowed against that and you got the cash value, or even if you had it, on another note, you could make the lender the beneficiary of an insurance policy for the total amount that you owed them, and just pay the premiums into that policy so that they didn't have to liquidate your assets when you die to be able to pay off the note. It'll go to your beneficiary. It'll go back to your estate, and then they would get the life insurance policy to cover it. So there's a lot of different ways that you can structure it to make sure that it gets paid off at the end of your life and the assets aren't liquidated. But if you don't do that, then they will just liquidate whatever portion of assets they need, pay themselves back, and then they would pass the rest of it back to your estate. So we do a lot of wealth management, wealth planning, and insurance is a big component of that. Justin Kincaid says, Jake, my man, give Uncle Danny a big shout out. What's up, Uncle Danny? He's had withdrawals since you've been gone. Appreciate you for the kind words, man. Excited to be here tonight. I get a lot of fulfillment from these. Tereso's has a go. What's up, man? It's good to see you on Mr. Man's space the other day. Hey, Jake, thank you and your team for all that you do. Hope that you're well, keeping up, people. Don't forget to use like, subscribe, maybe consider joining the mastermind. Thanks, dude. I appreciate that. And I don't say that enough on here. If you are getting value from this and you do appreciate it, please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. It is much appreciated. It does help the algorithm and it helps us reach more people. GEC chat wanted to holler. Thanks, man. Appreciate the super chat. Captain Bill, what's up, dude? He says, I love it, Jake. Set up a trust, then own nothing and be happy. Look, the World Economic Forum isn't so bad. I know a lot of people, I'm not about the bug thing. I'm not trying to eat bugs, but like the rest of it, I mean, it kind of makes sense if you're in that group. And we got John. He says, and from good evening, crypto can't waity to have you. One good morning, crypto brother. Maybe soon you'll wake up and your portfolio will be a bit heftier. That's I'm hopeful for. Got 4 a.m. in the UK. Never miss the streams, dude. Thank you so much for staying up. You don't have to do that or getting up early. Either way, you can. These are recorded. Like you can watch it later, my man. Thank you for the super chat. We've got. Hey Jake, Monopoly Money says, hey Jake, what kind of impact will ProShares 2 longs leverage ETF have on XRP, which I heard goes live Friday? It just allows a way for them to hedge on the spot ETFs. Futures always goes live before spot. Spot is the only thing that's going to affect price. But you can trade it and probably make a lot of money if XRP is going to go up and to the right. You want to trade it though. It's not something you should just leave set there. Leveraged ETFs are something you trade. It's not just invest and leave it type thing. Jeremiah, so they're good. I say this, they're in like a retirement account. That would be something that you could trade and do pretty well. Jeremiah says Tether has purchased commodity-driven businesses like oil and agriculture to hedge against interest or inflation and drive their stable coins. What's your take on this concerning their potential of legal troubles? That has nothing to do, like they're not backed with 100% treasuries, so it's going to be a problem. But thank you for the super chat. David says, thoughts on 2027 XRP price or that far out? 5 digits. Velco32 says, do you think American crypto will be zero capital gains? Yes. And I think it'll be an executive order from Trump that does that. We got developing with Jay. Hey, what's up, man? He says, "Hey Jake, I currently have 1 million long on XRP USDT perp. Let's say Friday there are issues with USDT. What happens? Does USDT lose value or what? I think it'll depeg. And that's the other problem. Like that's the only thing you're going to be able to put that type of leverage on. I think that's on purpose. So I don't know, man. I would, if you're long on it, I would just own the underlying asset. I wouldn't take any leverage. I wouldn't play with any perps. I don't know what the volatility is going to look like. Just be careful. Perps, you need to understand what you're doing. Obviously, you're offshore somewhere if you're doing that. Those aren't legal. Actually, they just made perps legal here in the U.S. So maybe you're onshore if you're doing that. But I can't tell you what to do. I'm only going to voice my concerns, and then you can kind of make your own decisions from there. I appreciate the super chat. I wish I could give you like, hardcore financial advice, but that's not my game. Good luck on it if you keep it in. Let me know how you do. Let's see here. Trying to get through all the super chats and make sure people get mentioned or answered. Thank you for the super chat here from New Zealand, which is cool. Cool people, like it's very cool to see that we have so many like abroad, across the world, people from different nations watching. Never would have thought in my life that I would be in a position to be able to do that. So just super blessed and grateful to have you guys in here. And again, I want to mention the mastermind one more time. If you guys do want to participate in the mastermind before XRP gets to $10 and we lock it down, please use the code BeyondBroke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO is going to get you a free month there in the group. You've seen all the testimonials from people. Like these are unprompted. Like I don't ask people to put these out there. People are just excited about the mastermind, and they're nice enough to share some kind words here on the super chats. Marissa Reynolds, Jody Knowles is first. Okay, legend. What's up? I think it's about time for some legendary stuff. Spill the beans. You want to, you're doing great. Proud of your accomplishments. Thank you for that. Yeah, I say this is the analogy. I feel like an Indian on the campground, and the shamans come out of the teepee and talk to me every once in a while. And I'm able to garner some info and put all that together. And that's how I put together my thesis about the domino theory and a lot of the stuff I talk about. Legacy's put out the code here, which I haven't mentioned this evening so far, but if you do want 50% off the LLC, most of the time we charge $4,000 to be able to set everything up end to end, give you the corporate veil, articles of organization, EIN, certificate of good standing, registered agent, the template. Just the template alone for the right template is going to cost you somewhere between $1,800 and $25 from an attorney. We give that to you, all inclusive. If you use the code 50OFF, 50OFF DAG gets you everything end to end that you could possibly need for your LLC. And we're working on bank accounts. I don't know when that's going to happen, but it's something we're working on. You get everything for $2,000. Like, there's not going to be an attorney out there that sets this up in the same way that we are and does it right. Make sure you don't have any tax implications. Does a single member LLC, provides you the template for the operating agreement, does all the filings for you, all the maintenance on the LLC, make sure you keep up your meeting minutes and issue the equity, and provide you guidance on how you should maintain the corporate veil, give you a person you can call. Like, they're not going to do that for this amount of money, guaranteed. We're able to do this at scale. We've done over 2,000 LLCs for people that are holding companies. These are not trading companies. These are holding companies that manage alternative investments and have a large allocation to digital assets. So we set them up specifically that way so you can take advantage of long-term capital gains tax. It's not a trading corporation. There's just many things that we've gone over with our attorneys over the past 2.5 years that allow us to be very specialized in how we set this up. And we do it at a price point that you're not going to get anywhere else. So if that's something that interests you, you can use this code again, 50OFF, 50OFF DAG LLC. Get you everything you need for your digital assets to manage them and mitigate taxes on the other side of appreciation for $2,000. Marissa Reynolds, here she is. She says, "How can XRP reach $1,000 when the supply is so high?" So total supply and available supply are two very different things, Starlin. I walked through this a lot earlier in the evening, and I'm sure that you maybe it was like first thing. I went over some super chats early on, but I talked about market cap and people's misconception around market cap when it comes to protocols versus businesses. But in reality, it's what people are willing to pay for it. And if you have supply and demand on the secondary market, and there's not a whole lot of supply and there's a lot of demand, you push the price to that level. And then the reason it would stay there is volume moving over the network, because you'd have enough demand from people buying and selling it when there's enough liquidity in it to be able to settle transactions, that it'll stay at a high value. We got a few more people here, and then we're going to wrap it up for the night. We got Sean with the super chat. What's up, man? He says, hey, Jake, I found your channel about 2 weeks ago. Do you do private consulting? I do. Just like, I'm $5,000 for 30 minutes at this point. We've had some people pay it. I don't, normally do it anymore. We have a full team of people that know as much or more than me about this stuff. You're welcome to book a consult at digitalfamilyoffice.io or at Digital Wealth Partners. If you do it with Digital Wealth Partners, they are a little ways out. I think they're like a month out. But our team at Digital Family Office can get you in much faster. They're going to provide you similar expertise. As long as you don't need financial advice, that would be the way I would go. I think it's like $300. And I will say this, people in the mastermind do get access to me if you're in the right tier for substantially cheaper than $5,000. So, and I'm in there all the time. I answer questions all the time in there. And you're going to get 99% of your questions answered by being in the mastermind. But if you do want specific time with me, we do have a private call on Tuesdays for Carbon 2. If you do want to participate there, and we would love to have you. Textured Puma says, Trump's cabinet and Congress are full of Bitcoin maxis. Why do they pass a law that would destroy Bitcoin Tether? David Sachs already sold his positions in order to take the crypto czar role, and so have many other people. So they've already exited at the top of the market. And if you knew what was going to happen, you would have already exited. It's not like they get a choice in this. This has been orchestrated for a long time. And they're probably privy to it now before everything plays out. And again, they've had to liquidate their positions in order to take these positions in the cabinet so that there's not conflicts of interest. So they've already de-risked. Paracommand says, hey, Jake, have your investment branches located in the UK? We work with people from the UK, but you do need a corporation set up. So if you want to set up a limited company, I would highly recommend setting something up in Nevis or Portugal or outside of the UK. The UK is very rough when it comes to taxes. Kai Ora from New Zealand. Hey, what's going on? Very cool. Can we add New Zealand chat into the Discord? I love your content. Being part of the mastermind group and DAO since 2018. Onboarded 100K XRP today. Awesome, dude. Excited to have you with us. I can talk about New Zealand. You should have a lot of Aussies that have similar tax laws and stuff to you there in New Zealand. And we have people there in New Zealand to be able to help you set stuff up in the Cook Islands if that's interesting. Nicholas says, you may have covered this already in previous lives, but what's your thoughts on ZBEC? I actually have a whole video, Nicholas, if you want to go check out the video I made on ZBEC to talk about streaming payments and payroll. Shizad says, you think XRP 3 digits by 2030? I think it 3 digits by this year, 4 digits by this year, Shizad. Even though we have no clear picture of real adoption, at least not right now. We have very clear picture of adoption because of the regulation that's about to pass in the US. If you go back and watch my domino theory, you get a better picture and understanding of why I think what I think. We got Austin Trent. He says, House Representatives 580 officially passed for Eleanor. Yep, it sure did. Had like 215 Republicans all voted and got it through. BM Builders in Central Texas, thank you for the super chat. We got Dennis. He says, if XRP is at $1,000 and 37 billion in escrow, would the value at $37 trillion $10,000 for 370 trillion. Yep, you got it. That is the math, sir. It's a lot of liquidity, and they're able to offset debt, and that's the whole point. Shizad, I already answered this one. Trying to get to the bottom down here so we can wrap it up for the evening, but I don't want to miss any super chats if you guys throw them at me. If I do miss a super chat, please reach out, and we will try to make sure that we answer it first thing on Monday. This person says, thanks, Jake, the legend, for all of the wonderful crypto teaching. How do you recommend a miner purchase XRP for themselves? You should be able to set up a Coinbase account or an account. I don't know that you need to be 18 in order to be able to do that. You can set up a bank account at like 14 or 15, so you should be able to set up a crypto exchange account. Not sure. You could definitely set up a company and then do it through the company. Southside Crypto says, legend, what's up? Realistic expectations for top 2% of XRP. How much price needed for the top 2% to be considered high net worth? Triple from here. High net worth individuals are, north of 5 million. You got ultra high net worth and all of the other designations that are significantly higher than that. But, a high net worth individual is probably around 5 million. So if you had, you probably need a $50 or $100 XRP. You're right. Which, again, I don't think is unreasonable or in the too distant future. We got Brian. What's up, man? He says, hey, Jake, thanks for sharing your knowledge. Do you think now is a good time to adjust TRX holdings? I don't deal with Tron. Haven't for a long time. Might be. I actually never invested in Tron, to be honest with you. I like Justin Sun. I think he's a sharp guy, but that's not anything I ever put my money in. Marcus says, have a 6K portfolio. Just took 50K out of my 401k, put 20K in XRP and 20K in HBAR. Thinking HBAR for the last 10K. Thoughts, deploy now or wait pullback? Not financial advice, obviously. I don't own any HBAR, Marcus. I'm only XRP, and I buy it whenever I can. And I'll buy it all the way up to $50. Mr. B says, thanks for everything that you share with us. I just want your honest thought. Do you believe XRP will be 4 digits by the end of the year? Is it still going in patterns you see? Thank you. Yeah, I mean, look at the logarithmic chart on the XRPL or on XRP. That's how I get to, some of the price points that I'm talking about. I think it moves on a logarithmic chart and not on a linear chart like many people use. Brian says, does the XRP bot OTC show in total market cap? Yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying, because the OTC trades don't affect secondaries. No, it wouldn't. But it's still going to trade at the same price. I mean, I can tell you, like, I do OTC pretty frequently, and it trades at the same price. It's not like it's at a discount or anything. Sal says, hey, Jake, just moved 120K assets. Need some advice on the LLC and how to set it up for future. Wanted to sell as we go up in value and benefit from tax exemptions, hopefully. Awesome, dude. Yeah, if you just want to reach out to digitalfamilyoffice.io, we would love to work with you. info@digitalfamilyoffice.io. Again, if you want to set up the LLC, you can use the code 50OFF, 50OFF, DAG LLC. 50OFF, DAG LLC. Get you everything for your LLC at digitalfamilyoffice.io for $2,000. Living our lives says, always watching from over here in the Philippines. Very cool. XRP awareness is non-existent over here, at least among the everyday people. That's everywhere. It's like, this is nascent. Most people have no clue. We had 3,000 people on YouTube tonight. Like, you guys are part of the elite. There's not very many people that have any eyes on any of this stuff. We got G-Man says, Jake, look forward to sharing your knowledge. You sharing your knowledge and price appreciation conviction with Good Morning Crypto on Friday. Yeah, it should be a good time. I'll be excited to see Abs and the guys and Johnny over there. Do you think you could defeat a hyped up chimpanzee in 1 versus 1? Absolutely. Yeah. So again, one last time, we've got here's the code again for anybody that wants to set up an LLC and make sure that their assets are protected. and outside their personal name to be able to mitigate lawsuits and taxes and have privacy and, you know, set things up so that you can take large profits or earn income and be able to mitigate those taxes over the long term. Again, that's 50 off 50OFF DAG LLC. So with that, I am going to go ahead and wrap it up. We're right at the 2-hour mark. We hit it on the nose here. Appreciate you guys taking the time. Again, if you guys do want to participate in the mastermind, we would love to have you. Love to have you. Super excited about that community. We got 4,000 people there in the mastermind. It is month to month, no contract. You can cancel at any time if you don't like it. So try it out for free. The code is Beyond Broke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO. Get you a free month there in the group. Get in the Discord. Way more knowledge there than you're going to get anywhere else in any other community. For 25 bucks a month is social, 100 bucks a month is Carbon One. And again, that's after the free month. So you choose what you want. If you are in Carbon One, you can borrow against your XRP, and that's exclusive. We have a deal on that for the mastermind and digital wealth partners. You're not going to get anywhere else. We have, you know, a very legitimate counterparty that holds the assets at Anchorage. So pretty cool there. If you want to get access to private deals, also Carbon One is a great thing. And then we have an insurance program, which is a health share plan. So if you need, you know, health insurance and other stuff, there's that for you. And then on and on and on. We have so many things there in the mastermind. We're only going to be rolling out more. So if you want to be a part of the community that's doing the most things in digital assets and is the most progressive, it's beyondbroke.com. We got the LLC up here for you guys. And then lastly, if you do want to hold your assets in institutional custody, get insurance on them, segregated bankruptcy remote, add your spouse on the account because they don't know about crypto. Make sure your kiddos are going to get this stuff if you pass away, God forbid. You can work with Digital Wealth Partners to set that up at Anchorage, the most secure custodian, I dare say, in the world. BlackRock is holding their assets there for their ETFs. And that's why we work with them, you know, to be able to do that and provide that for our clients. You do have to have the LLC set up, and you do have to have at least 100,000 XRP or at least $500,000 in your total, portfolio value. So, you know, just know those things going into it. And we would love to work with you if that's the case. So with that, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. I hope you guys have a wonderful evening, a wonderful week, and we will see y'all on the next one.